Thank you to everyone that's tuning in. This is the Christian Music Bro podcast. Today we're gonna have a special. We have 90s worship night. I think he's the founder, Chad. So I'm gonna let Chad introduce himself right now.
Brendan, hello. Thank you so much for inviting me on this wonderful podcast of y'all's. Yes, you are correct. I am the creator of 90s Worship Night. Uh, Biggest question I get asked is what is 90s Worship Night? Well, that's a complicated answer, but I'll do my best to summarize it. Uh, I would best say that 90s Worship Night is a movement. You can also call it a brand, I guess, which is correct. Pretty well three main parts to it. We have a 10-part docu-series that we will hopefully be launching the first episode very soon. That's going to be, focused on different aspects
Mhm.
of what happened during the 1990s decade in the world of worship music. We're going to be starting off with first episode is going to be about the Brownsville Revival, the music from the Brownsville Revival, with Lyndall Cooley. So very excited for anyone who knows that narrative. With it being 10 plus parts to it, our hope is that, most, viewers will know probably some of the narratives, but
Mhm.
will join in to, kind of learn about the project as a whole. So we have that docu-series. We've also started a record label called NWN Records in partnership with Integrity Music. We just released our first studio album called Break Through the Stars, which is, pretty well a studio compilation of uh, cover versions of some of the most popular 90s worship material. Some of those features are actually the artists themselves from that era, and then the others are, worship leaders who are part of our 90s Worship Night Live, which is the third part of 90s Worship Night, which is our live events. We're, hosting those live events at various churches all across North America here the next few years. So that's kind of our church version. One thing we're not quite ready to announce yet is there will be kind of like a theater, um, hopefully move up to arena
Mhm.
type version of that, where we will be partnering with some of the actual 1990s era, worship artists to do a 90s worship night. So we're working on that. That's in progress. I have some exciting announcements about that pretty soon. But altogether, those are the three parts: the docu series, the record label, and then our live events.
And you guys are quite new, if I'm looking right. You guys have only been going about a few months now. Am I correct? Sorry.
Well, we publicly launched last month, which would be March of 2024 as of this recording.
Yeah.
We started 90s Worship Night officially in January of 2021. So that was when we kind of put the plans in
Mhm.
place, put the team together, and we pretty well immediately upon that point started capturing content, for the docu series. I mean, once it's all said and done, I mean, we'll have close to probably 100 interviews that's going to be a part of this thing. Each episode we're planning to be about 40 to 43 minutes of runtime. So over 400 minutes at least of content will be in this docu-series. So quite a bit. We have quite a bit of post-production ahead of us, which I know you appreciate that aspect of it with what y'all do. Uh, but it's I've been accused of this being a passion project. That is not the truth. I am very passionate about the subject matter, don't get me wrong,
Mhm.
but we actually started 90s Worship Night to honor a late friend of mine who had passed in September 2020. Um, and it was kind of our way of honoring the different legacies that were part of this time period. Um, and that's the artists, songwriters, some of the music industry executives who made everything happen behind the scenes, and then obviously the songs as well. It all goes back to the
Yes.
songs. Uh, and it's like with our live events or anything that we're doing, that's really what the main point of it is. Other than obviously the main point is
Yeah.
evangelizing the gospel and um, that aspect of it. So
And speaking of docuseries, we started off with a teaser of the docuseries. So if you're
Yes.
wondering what it's about, we just showed a little teaser to start off. I should have introduced saying we started off with a teaser, but we just go with the flow because that's how life works.
It was a teaser for sure. Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for playing that. And yeah, something we'd put together that, hopefully doesn't give away too much. Want it to be a little bit abstract, because we're not quite ready to let much of the cat out of the bag, so to speak. But lots of wonderful guests, some narratives that have never been told before about some of these songs and some of these movements. And then others, narratives get lost through the annals of time, because you got to remember, back in the 90s, that was the still the analog era, the pre-digital era.
Yeah.
So a lot of the interviews or stories about anything that was happening was either in print magazines or in newspapers, and a lot of that never got digitized.
Mhm.
So some of these great interviews that would have happened with some of the trade magazines from that era, it's just gone. So we'll be able to hopefully have those stored digitally, as we release those, so that from years to come, folks can look back and learn about that history.
Or you guys can get out your VCRs and watch them on VCR. Okay.
There, I've handled. I tell you, that's been one of the interesting parts about doing this, is just how many like archive videos, in different kinds,
Exactly.
VHS, Betacam, at 8 millimeter. I haven't had to deal with like any real stuff, because that would have been, primarily pre that era. But then getting that digitized is always, an effort. Even, I mean, shoot, getting DVDs, pulling off content from DVDs and turning it into a MP4 file or whatnot, it can be challenging. So that's always an interesting aspect of anyone who's doing a pre-digital age uh, you know documentary.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the docuseries. Let's go into the second branch, or whatever you want to call it, branch segue into the record label part. Can you talk a little bit about the record label and all that?
Yeah, really, for us, starting this record label was something that, you know, big picture would be completely, directly correlated with our live events. And we had put out a live album last year, was from the actual first 90s worship night that we had done back in 2021, to kind of kick everything off. And kind of all throughout 2023, we were beta testing, just getting up, our SEO, and make sure all of our logistics where they needed to be. So we went ahead and dropped that album. And that kind of showed us the need to have kind of something formal in place.
Mhm.
So we were already partnering very closely with Integrity Music on the docuseries part, just because of the archive footage, and definitely needing their help with some of the licensing aspects and whatnot. So I had approached them about, hey, would love to partner with y'all on the distribution side for this record label that we're wanting to do. So they've been very gracious, have been a huge help. And we plan to release, we got another live album coming out in June here of 2024, I believe, and then one in the fall. We're going to be recording another one in August. So this is definitely going to be something that happens pretty routinely. Now, the studio album that we just put out, Break Through the Stars, that was kind of more of a, probably a one-off kind of crown jewel type of project, to really mainly just celebrate, this eventual release of the docu-series. So that's really what the purposes of the label is. As far as, are we going to
Mhm.
sign other artists or do other things, I'll never say never to anything, but really the point of it is to just release covers from the 90s era with worship.
And for those who are listening, if you're looking to look for 90s worship covers, you can always look them up. You can probably, the name is on my screen right now. It's up here the whole time.
90s worship night. Yeah.
Nice and easy.
You get what it says there, that's
Exactly.
cut straight to the point. And we'll definitely be building out our YouTube channel here in the coming months. We already have some music videos on there, but there'll
Mhm.
definitely be more released. As far as the docuseries, where that's going to be, there definitely will be a YouTube component to that. Don't have all the answers sorted out quite yet on that, but definitely YouTube will be a big part of that. And then obviously we're on Facebook and Instagram.
They're really active on their
That's where
social media pages, so you can check them out there too. 90s Worship Night. With the description of this video, we'll send a link to their Facebook or Instagram, and you guys can check it out that way. Can you do you have any of this is just a fun question because instead of just
yeah.
going to the business side of thing, do you have any favorite covers you've recorded yet? Do you have a favorite cover you guys recorded?
Well, one of my favorites definitely would be just, with the teaser you just showed, the track we played in that
Mhm.
teaser, if anyone wants to go check it out on our YouTube page. And there's music video too, but Ancient of Days. Love that song. That was originally recorded by Ron Canoli, who's a partner of 90s Worship Night, and we'll be doing an episode about him in the docuseries. So love that song. It's just so much fun, just an extremely well written song, and I think one of the best, congregational songs ever, probably in my opinion. So that would be one. I would say off of our new studio album, there would definitely be a couple. I love the rendition we did of the worship song "Take My Life." Uh, some refer to it as "Holiness."
Mhm.
But it's a Vineyard song from the mid '90s, written by Scott Underwood, who's a good friend of ours and a contributor, to 90s Worship Night, but just a timeless song. And I just really had it on my heart for us to put that on the album. So I actually got Scott to come in and do a duet with my good friend David Guerrero, who is one of our worship leaders, again, for a 90s Worship Night Live. So love how that turned out. So, that definitely, in my opinion, would be worthy of someone, giving it a listen. But there's just so many, so many great covers. I mean, we're definitely right now in the middle of pushing our collaboration with Jeff Dio, um, with his cover of the 90s worship song "All Who Were Thirsty," written by Britton Brown. But he actually made a derivative with this little bridge part called "Break Through the Stars" that he added into the song. So we're really pushing that one, right now as well. But I'm really pleased with the album. Actually, just yesterday I had to kind of lay it down for a bit because, working with music,
Exactly.
the process of months and months and months of, I served as, executive producer and basically did the A&R for the album. So I was just in it, constantly with all of our music producers who, brought it to life. So I'd taken a few weeks off of not listening to anything from the album, and then just this week, I ran it from top to bottom, and just really sat back like, wow, I'm just really thankful of how well this project turned out, because it's easy to say, there's not a bad song on there. It's like, well, no, we did all the, it's all 90s, worship hits, so there is not a bad song on there. But I feel like we, definitely captured a neat, a new and
Mhm.
neat, rendition of each song.
I hate to tell you this. I'm barely 90s. I was born in 99, so
Well, hey, that's completely fine. Well, it's so funny because I heard someone had a great quote, the other day. Is like, when they hear 30 years ago, I was still thinking, because I was born in 1980, so that
yeah.
you kind of put the math there on my age. But when someone says 30 years ago, I'm thinking, oh yeah, the 1970s were, what an interesting decade. And then I got to think, like, no, that was the 1990s, were 30 years ago. How is that possible? I do not know. But you bring up an excellent point in that, I've got asked this question a lot, is just, what do we have to offer for, millennials and Gen Zers who, had nothing to do with the 90s, other than that was probably a great decade for their parents and their lives. But I mean, the 90s were cool. I mean, there was just so much going on in worship and in ministry that decade. I still think some of the best worship songs ever written were from that time period. I think a lot of them are making a comeback. Hopefully, we'll do our part in contributing to that comeback. Um, but there's just so many interesting narratives, So I think anyone who appreciates just church history and wants to know the history of worship music and kind of how we've gotten from where it was to where we are today, this documentary will definitely be enlightening. And I think there's also a lot to learn just from what I would describe as the innocence of that time period, because that was really the pre-commercialization of the genre, because back then when you said, worship music, it was all contained within a ministry context. And, kind of post 2000, that turned more into commercial context, and things started, being geared more towards entertainment. Not saying one's better than the other, just it's just different, so I think there's definitely some interesting, um, content to learn.
Correct me if I'm wrong. We're going back to the teaser now. Sorry, like I said, we're going all over the place because I just
Yeah.
like go in different places and they all connect together. But correct me if I'm wrong, but was that Darlene Check in that teaser?
Yes. Yeah. Darlene Check is a partner on 90s Worship Night. We will be doing an episode about her. So we're really close to having that episode finished. I actually got to get back to work on that this summer. Don't have a release date for any of these things yet, but yeah, but she will be getting an episode. Very excited about it. Yeah, I kind of screen tested it, what we do have for probably about 100 people or so.
Mhm.
And most of them, it brought them to tears, which in a good way. So that really encouraged me. And, we've gotten a very similar reaction from what will be episode 1 of the series. So those two were definitely, getting prepared to delivered. Beyond that, we have to get back in the studio and do a lot of post production. But yes, but Darlene will be a part of it. I'm very excited about that.
I was like, when I was watching, I was like, that can't be her at first. So I got like, then I like watched it again. When you like, when I asked you for like the links, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, study. That's the only one I recognize in this whole video.
Well, and that's an excellent point, and that will be the case with, certain of the contributors, is that, viewers may only recognize a certain, portion. Some viewers
Correct.
may know who everybody is, but hopefully they'll, look beyond just what they know and want to learn about who these other individuals are. Because I mean, just some of these stories are just mind blowing
Mhm.
and just incredibly inspirational.
And we're not going to share any of the stories because we'll let them see it on the docuseries, and we want to hear from the person that tells the story. Like, I don't want to spoil anything, just talking about it here. We just have a few extra minutes today. Is there anything you
Yeah.
want to talk about that we haven't brought up about 90s worship night?
Yeah, I would just encourage anyone who's interested in being a part of this journey to reach out. Whether that means always shoot us an email, reach out on social media. If you want to support us, I mean, through our website, obviously our merch store is a good place to start. We've got t-shirts, hats, some other like USB cassette tapes, CDs, things of
You guys
that
have like
nature.
you guys should get like handbands or whatever they wore in the 90s and sell those for like the do 90s
Well,
style merch.
we'll definitely have some cool 90s stuff once we get funded to the level where we can, get that stuff purchased and populated on our merch store. So that's why it's really important at this stage, if we can just get anyone who wants to support us to do that. We also have a Give, Send, Go campaign for anyone who just wants to, um, basically give a donation, which you can link to that, through our website. And then I'd also say too, just any of the live events that we have going on, those are listed on our website. We're going to be all over the country here in the United States this year. I'm really excited about a few of the places that we're going to be. So I would encourage anyone who's close to those areas to come and be a part, of what we're doing. And, the live events are all about, obviously we're, having a night of worship with a lot of these, covers from the 90s era being part of that. But then we're also using a lot of multimedia with showing, song story clips from the docu-series, and as well as a lot of the fun, moving graphics and things of that nature that, really gives it a night of nostalgia. But also, I mean, just just taking a step back in time and reminding us, just what it was like to be in a worship service back in the 1990s. So,
Again, Chad, thank you for joining. me today. I was gonna say us, but Brennan's not here, so that would have been a little lie saying us. But everyone, check out 90s Worship Night. We've talked about everywhere you can find them. Watch the docu series when it comes out. Follow them. Send Chad email if you have any questions. It's just 90s Worship Night at gmail.com. Nice and easy. And again, Chad, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much, and God bless, and keep up the great work.
And to everyone that's watching, we'll see you next time on the Christian Music Bros podcast. Take care, everyone.